I stood at the very edge of the Grand Canyon. Early enough in the morning that the sun was coming right at my face. I could see the snow glistening around the edges of the trees and the edges of the cliffs. But I could also see that it was as if part of the canyon didn't exist. There was this line around the canyon where the sun had not yet risen high enough for the canyon rim on the other side to allow the sun to the bottom. And as we stood at the edge looking off into the canyon, we realized there is evenly as much that we cannot see and know nothing about as there is, which is openly revealed. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. If there's ever been a time in your life that a revelation has come to you, that an idea or a notion has come to you because of an experience that you've lived through, and you've thought to yourself, the whole world needs to know about this very moment. The whole world needs to understand what I know now that I didn't know 5 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, 5 years ago. I'm beginning to pull together the pieces of the puzzle from this stage of my life and this stage of my life and the learning that I had here and the job that I had here. And I'm working with someone right now who's had military experience and civil service experience and government experience and personal job experience and entrepreneurial experience, and the passion driven by all of those experiences and abuse and divorce and being a single parent, all of those things that roll into this one individual's life create a story where the common thread through there is only the passion that drives this individual forward. But all of the flavoring of the various experiences of life drive this person to do a very specific kind of work for a very specific group of people, driven by the passion of every experience in their life. I'm willing to bet that in your life there's a very similar thread of events that create a very unique story in you. And you've probably heard people say your story is worth millions. If you can tell your story, you can make millions. You can be rich off of your story. And there's some truth to that. But there's some questions that you've got to ask, like, who cares about your story? What makes your story any different than anybody else's story? What is the uniqueness about what you've learned and what you've experienced and how they come together to form the fabric of who you are today and how you've overcome the problems that you've overcome? A lot of people want to say this was my problem and this is what I have now, the before and after. But as we all know, it's not the day that we're born or the day that we die, it's the dash in the middle. It's not the dream, it's not the destiny, it's the process that we learn from. And it's really easy to sell the front and back cover of the book and ignore all the pages in the middle. But see, the real power for transformation, the real power for challenge and change rests in the pages of the book, not the beautiful design on the cover. Well, the cover makes the promise. The cover explains where we go from here. But the how we get from point A to point B, that's buried in the story. It's buried in the lessons that are learned along the way. And there's a right way to tell those lessons. And there's a right way to reveal those truths. And there's a right way to look at the marketing value as well as the manipulation value of a story. And there are a lot of people really good at the marketing and manipulation only of a story to make it a bestseller on Amazon, to reach the top of the list and become a best-selling book. And now all of a sudden everybody thinks you're famous, but has your process, has your journey, has your story made lives better or just made you money? I have to confess openly, I am much more interested in influence and impact than income. Now that doesn't mean my light bill gets paid all by itself. I still have to get paid for what I do. But I want to know that I didn't just get paid. But I made an impact and I gained influence. If you can't answer those questions that are on the screen about the power and the impact of your story, about who it's for and what change will it bring about in their life, schedule a coaching session with me and we'll sit down and talk about that. We'll see if we can help you discover how all of the various events and incidences in your life become one thread for one purpose with one passion to be the change you want to see in the world. I'm J Loren Norris on Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.